Today we're making something different. We are showing you some of our winter preparations. Mainly how we prepare the tomato sauce that we can use instead of tomato paste. This one just tastes way better. I really don't need to list the ingredients here, I guess. You'll need lots and lots of tomatoes. We got in total 19 kilos of tomatoes for a fairly good price. Usually I get mine from the bazaar, but they had the prices unusually high this year. But they do that every year when people here prep for the winter, or want to prep for the winter. So I ended up getting them cheaper at the normally expensive supermarket. Look at that price, almost 3 liras to 1.39. At the bazaar, they had the cheapest for 2, and they didn't look good, those asshats. First things first, you got to wash these suckers thoroughly. Some people like to peel the tomatoes, but I'm not bothering with almost 20 kilos of them. See how filthy the seemingly clean tomatoes are. We wash them usually twice, then rinse them one last time and then cut out the stem and chop them into smaller pieces. Some people like to grind or even blend the tomatoes at this point. But while boiling them down, they are bubbles that splash around very hot tomato pieces. After that very painful batch of tomatoes, we opt to cut them in smaller pieces and blend them when they are done boiling. When the pot is fairly full, place it on the highest temperature and let it get the heat. Stir the tomatoes occasionally. They'll release their water and it bubbles away. When you boil it long enough, you'll see that there is some foam emerging. You'll definitely want to get rid of that foam. I don't know why, but because of that foam, you cannot preserve the tomatoes for long. So whenever we see that forming on top of the boiling tomatoes, we just get that away. The earliest you can start to fill your glasses is when the tomatoes have changed color. We want it to boil it a bit longer so that it gets a bit thicker. When you want to preserve tomatoes, get that kind that aren't so juicy. The ones we have here look kind of like eggs, we just call them egg tomatoes. They don't have lots of juice and are ideal for preservation. While those are cooking, get your jars ready. They have to be sterile if you want to keep the tomatoes the whole winter. We keep them in hot water for a minute and let them drip off the excess water on a clean towel. The same goes for the lids. You can use all kinds of jars. I bought some and some are from pickles, hazelnut paste or other stuff. As long as they are closed securely, there is no problem in using them. When you think the tomatoes are okay, blend them thoroughly. If you do it long enough, there are no traces of peel or whatsoever left, so no peeling beforehand necessary. And now you gotta be fast. Fill in the jars with the still almost boiling hot tomatoes, but be careful not to make the screwing part of the jar dirty or wet. Same goes for the lids. I'm extra careful with those and even use tissue to get the last bit of moisture off of them. When that's done, close it securely and let it cool off. While the jar cools off, it creates a vacuum and seals the goodies off. I like to turn them upside down only because some jars or lids are faulty and might leak. When I turn them upside down, it either reacts directly or when it cools off. This year I was lucky to have only 2 lids leaky. And that's it. You can keep these for quite a long time without the taste changing at all. My mom had one that lasted 3 years without a problem. She had lost it behind some marmalade jars and totally forgot about them, but apparently there wasn't a problem. Like I said before, the bazaar was a total letdown for the tomatoes, but the eggplants were super cheap. We got ourselves 10 kilograms and prepared those for winter as well. I roast them on a barbecue until they are soft and my mom peels them off. It is actually easier to just slice them in half and scoop the inner part out, but it is harder to make decent portions. When the eggplants cool off, we put them into plastic bags and off to the freezer. These eggplants are great for salads like we got here. It is real simple. Chop an onion, some parsley, a few peppers and the eggplants, mix them with a bit of vinegar and salt. If you know a bit of Turkish or at least Middle Eastern cuisine, you might have heard of something called meze. And for some of those, you'll need these eggplants, as well as for imam bayıldı, a kind of bechamel sauce with eggplants topped off with lots of meat, or Ali Nazik, a dish with yogurt, the eggplants and minced meat. This video was a bit different from our usual format, but if you should be interested, you can check out the other videos here. A like is always appreciated and subscribing would help us immensely. Have a nice day, everyone!